How could you do this to me, John? I can still hear myself screaming those words, like they just left my mouth yesterday. But it's been over a year now. I was 6 months pregnant, standing barefoot in the middle of our living room, my body trembling, not from the pregnancy, but from rage and disbelief. I was crying, shaking, trying to understand how the man I trusted could look me in the eye with no guilt at all. He just stood there with his arms crossed, looking cold and annoyed, like I was the problem, like I was making things difficult for no reason. That was the moment everything I believed about us fell apart. Everything we had built, our home, our future, our family, it all felt like a lie. My name is Melissa Harper. I'm 32 years old now, and I'm a single mom to a beautiful little girl named Emma. She just turned 1. Life looks nothing like I thought it would, but oddly enough, in some ways, it's better. Because a little over a year ago, I faced a betrayal that nearly broke me, and while I was picking up the pieces, I was also getting ready to become a mother. When John left, I felt like I was drowning. I couldn't breathe. Every time I tried to close my eyes, his words would echo in my mind, stabbing at my heart like tiny knives. I'm not attracted to you anymore, Melissa. Look at you. You've let yourself go. I can't even describe what those words did to me. I was growing his child. I was tired, emotional, and trying to survive each day, and instead of love or support, he gave me cruelty. But what cut me even deeper than John's betrayal was Julia. Julia, my best friend, the woman who knew everything about me, my fears, my hopes, my dreams. She stood beside me on my wedding day. She held my hand when I cried over silly things. She was family. And yet, she didn't even have the decency to look me in the eye. I never got a confession from her. I never got an apology. Nothing. I didn't even confront her. I didn't need to. I just erased her, like she was never part of my life at all. The last few months of my pregnancy were the hardest. I was alone, emotionally, financially, spiritually. John didn't just walk away from me. He abandoned Emma, too. Not a single text asking if she was okay. Not a single dollar to help with diapers, doctor appointments, or baby clothes. My mom tried her best to be strong for me. She came over every weekend with groceries or cooked meals, but I could see the pain in her eyes whenever she looked at me. It hurt her to watch her daughter suffer. I tried to act strong. I smiled when people visited. I told everyone I was okay, but every night, when the house was dark and quiet, I would curl up in bed and cry until I couldn't keep my eyes open. Then one afternoon, everything shifted. It was a rainy day, and I was sitting on the couch with swollen feet, flipping through baby name books. That's when the doorbell rang. It was Karen, another close friend of mine. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. I could tell something was wrong the second I opened the door. Melissa. I need to tell you something, she said, stepping inside nervously. She looked around like the walls had ears. I led her to the living room, and she sat down slowly, like she was carrying the weight of the world. I saw John today, she began, with Julia. They were coming out of a hotel together, and they kissed, right there in the hallway. My entire body froze. It felt like time stopped. My stomach turned. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. I stared at her, waiting, hoping, for her to say she was mistaken, that she meant someone else, that she didn't see what she thought she saw. When? Where? Are you sure? I asked, desperate for any other answer. But I already knew Karen wouldn't lie about something like that. My cousins were in town, she said quietly. They were staying at that hotel. I was on my way to their room when I saw them. Melissa. I know what I saw. She looked at me with such sadness, and I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Julia, the woman who helped me pick out Emma's crib, the woman who knew when my next doctor's appointment was, her. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't even cry at first. I just sat there, numb, while the betrayal wrapped around me like a noose. That night, I waited for John to come home. When I heard his car in the driveway, my hands started to sweat, my pulse raced. I was afraid, not of him, but of the truth, of hearing it come from his mouth. He walked in like everything was normal, set his keys down, loosened his tie. I stood between him and the hallway. How long has it been, John? I asked, voice trembling. He looked confused for a second, then his face shifted into that familiar blank mask. What are you talking about? He replied. Don't pretend, I said firmly. Karen saw you, at the hotel, with Julia. She saw you two together. She saw you kiss. He scoffed, rolling his eyes. Karen, that woman's delusional. She probably misunderstood. Julia and I are just friends. But he couldn't even look at me when he said it. And that was all the confirmation I needed. Don't you dare lie to me, I shouted. She saw you leave a room together. She saw you kiss. I am not stupid, John. He started pacing the room, trying to spin a story that made no sense. Every excuse he gave made him sound guiltier. Every sentence he spoke felt like a slap to my face. Then suddenly, Emma kicked. A soft flutter, right in the middle of my stomach. It stopped me in my tracks. I put my hand on my belly and held it there. She was in there, listening, feeling, depending on me. I looked up at John, tears filling my eyes. Do you even care about her? I asked softly. She's yours, John. She's growing inside me, and she can feel this. She can feel me falling apart. For a second, he glanced at my stomach, but his eyes didn't soften. His face stayed cold. This isn't about the baby, he said sharply. Stop being so dramatic. And just like that, I knew. I was alone. He wasn't going to change. He didn't care. Not about me, not about our daughter, not about the life we were supposed to have. It was just me and Emma now. And somehow, I knew, we were going to be okay, because we had each other, and that was more than enough. When he looked me in the eyes that night and said those words, I felt like the world just stopped spinning. I stood there, completely frozen. My heart was pounding, but my body wouldn't move. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I had expected denial. I had prepared myself to hear a few excuses, maybe even a lie or two, but what I wasn't ready for was the cold truth. He wasn't sorry. Not even a little. The man who once held my hand through every storm, the man who whispered promises of forever into my ear, now stood in front of me with a blank expression and words that cut deeper than any knife. I could barely breathe. My chest was tight, my vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. He didn't deserve to see me cry. You don't even care, I whispered, the words catching in my throat. Not about me, not about Emma, not even about the life we built together. He shrugged, no emotion, no regret, just a casual, heartless shrug. I've moved on, Melissa, he said like it was nothing. Maybe you should too. That was it. That was the moment I knew, he was gone. The man I loved, the man I shared dreams with, no longer existed. The next morning, I didn't wait. I grabbed a few suitcases and stuffed in whatever I could. The house felt like a graveyard of memories I no longer wanted. Everywhere I looked, there were reminders. Our wedding photo in the hallway, the onesies I'd bought for Emma, the coffee mug he always left by the sink. It was too much. I called my mom, and she told me to come home. She had offered before, knowing things were rocky. I had said no back then, trying to keep it all together, but now, I had no choice. When I pulled up to her house, she was already standing at the door, waiting, her arms opened wide, and I fell into them without a word. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered, holding me like I was a child again. That's when the dam broke. I cried harder than I'd cried in years, burying my face in her shoulder, letting it all out, the pain, the betrayal, the fear, everything I'd been holding in. She didn't let go. It's going to be okay, Melissa, she said softly, her voice calm and certain. You and Emma are going to be okay, I promise. We'll get through this together. And for the first time in weeks, I actually believed her. The days that followed were quiet, but they weren't easy. My mom tried her best to keep my spirits up. She made me tea in the mornings, cooked meals I hadn't had since childhood, and sat beside me on the couch without needing to say anything, but the silence was loud when she wasn't around. I spent hours in the small room she had set up for me, now turned into a nursery. I folded and refolded Emma's little clothes, organizing her things over and over, just to stay busy. Sometimes I'd pick up my phone, staring at John's name in my contacts. I wanted to call him, I wanted to scream, I wanted to ask how he could walk away from me, and from our baby, like we meant nothing, but I never pressed dial. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. He didn't care. The man who once held my belly when we first heard Emma's heartbeat was gone. Weeks passed, then months. He never called, never asked about the pregnancy, never sent a text. It was like we'd been erased from his life, like we had never existed. At first, I checked my phone constantly. Half of me hoped he would reach out, the other half dreaded it, but eventually, I just stopped checking. I packed away every photo of him, every gift he ever gave me, every little reminder of who he used to be. I put it all in a box and shoved it in the back of the closet, out of sight, out of mind, or at least, that's what I told myself. Sometimes, though, I'd find myself thinking about him, not with love, not even with hate, just confusion. How could someone disappear from their own child's life before she was even born? Pregnancy was rough on me. I was tired all the time, my body ached, and the emotional weight of it all made everything feel 10 times harder. But my mom was always there. She reminded me every day that I wasn't alone. Still, there were nights I'd lie awake in bed, rubbing my belly and whispering to Emma, telling her I was sorry, telling her I wished things had been different, that I had dreamed of giving her a full, happy family, but I promised her, over and over, that I'd love her enough for two. Then finally, after what felt like forever, she arrived. Emma. The moment I held her in my arms, everything changed. The world didn't feel as heavy, the pain didn't sting as much, her tiny fingers curled around mine, and I felt whole again. She was perfect, my perfect little girl. John wasn't there, and strangely, I didn't even think of him in that moment. Because all I saw was Emma. The first few weeks were tough. I barely slept. Between feedings and diaper changes and learning how to be a mom, the days blurred together. But every time she looked at me with those big, curious eyes, I felt like I could keep going. My mom helped, but I tried to do most of it myself. I needed to know I could handle it. I needed to prove, to myself, that I was strong enough to raise Emma on my own. Still, I won't lie, the loneliness hit sometimes. I'd be out shopping and see a dad gently placing his baby into a stroller. I'd hear my friends talk about how their partners helped with night shifts, and I'd feel this little ache in my chest. But then I'd go home, hold Emma in my arms, and remember, I already had everything I needed. Weeks later, when I finally started feeling a bit more like myself again, my mom insisted I take a break, just a couple of hours to breathe, to walk around, to remember that I still existed as a person too. I went to the mall. I didn't plan to buy much, I just wanted to walk, to move, to feel normal. I stopped in a few baby stores, picked up a soft blanket, and admired a tiny dress I thought Emma would look adorable in. And then I heard someone call my name. Melissa. I turned. And there she was. Julia. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen and red. She looked nothing like the confident, smug woman I had last seen. And then I saw her belly, just slightly rounded beneath her shirt. Before I could say anything, she rushed toward me, grabbing my arm, her voice shaking. "I'm so sorry, Melissa," she cried, tears streamed down her cheeks. "I need to talk to you. I need to tell you everything." I didn't move, I didn't speak, I just stared. "I know I'm the last person you want to see, but please." "John left me." She sobbed harder. "He lost his job, he started drinking, gambling, and when I told him I was pregnant, he just walked out, said he couldn't deal with it, said it wasn't his problem." She covered her face, crying like her whole world had fallen apart. "I deserve this," she choked out. "I know I do, but I'm so sorry, Melissa. I never should have done what I did. You didn't deserve it." People walked by, staring at us, but I didn't care. Julia was breaking down in front of me, and for the first time since this whole mess began, I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, just nothing. "I ruined everything," she whispered. "Please, I'm begging you, can you forgive me?" Her voice trembled, her shoulders shook. But I didn't say a word. I looked at her one last time, then turned around and walked away. And when I got home, thinking nothing else could surprise me that day, there he was. John. Sitting on the front steps, looking like a man who had lost everything. Continued.